Do you ever feel sometimes that there's something happening with your account on eBay that really isn't supported by any kind of argument that's ever made on YouTube, but you feel like it's happening to you? I'll give you an example. Some people feel like eBay's throttling their sales. For me, I'll tell you one, and I'll tell you why I failed you guys, and I was wrong. I'm the first time, 2026. I'm finally admitting this, and that is this whole thing about whenever I travel away from my office here in Vegas, well, the whole geolocation thing, I think, is a bunch of more than likely BS, unless eBay comes out and says, "Hey, we're using geolocation." It was just an assumption. Sometimes I tend to think. I think sometimes as resellers, we tend to think something is kind of happening, whether could be glitches, right? Undocumented glitches that are going on with our account. And of course, we tend to draw conclusions based on results. We start looking at results. When I say results, could be you're getting a ton of returns and you're drawing conclusions as to why you're getting a ton of returns. It could be you're getting not as many sales as maybe you're used to in this particular time of year, and maybe that's concerning to you. And we tend to start thinking about what the hell is happening here. And some of us, not all of us, but some of us tend to draw our own conclusions as to why we're not getting the sort of results that we're looking for. And I think the big mistake, this is the mistake that I made, was not having a complete understanding about how eBay works. And I'm sitting here 6 years into this channel, and I'm telling you, I'm admitting to you that I was wrong, because part of it was I really didn't quite, I knew, but I didn't really have a firm grasp on what was going on. Now, in my particular situation, those of you guys who want to know what is this geolocation thing, it was the idea that when I left town, like when I'd go and visit my kids Christmas, Thanksgiving, and they're in California, I'm here in Vegas, that my sales would just totally like take a dive, right? And rarely did I have a good sales weekend whenever I left town. We went to the reseller rally in 2023, I believe, and that week was kind of shot. I didn't have great sales. But I think one thing I think that I didn't think about and I didn't pay attention to, I was so focused on the result. I think that's something we sort of maybe make a big mistake with when we're selling, is we start looking at the sales, when in reality eBay doesn't control our sales, guys. I think there's a lot of people out there who will right now be typing in the comments telling me that I'm just full of it because they know that eBay's throttling their sales. But eBay's never bought an item that I know of. Now, I do take that back. They do test buys if you're in the refurbished program. Okay. Other than that, eBay doesn't buy your items. Buyers buy your items. Okay. eBay, their main purpose is to give us a platform, which I think many of us can argue is very, very lacking with all the problems that we have to deal with. But they're also there to drive traffic to our listings. And they have created a place that used to be sort of a level playing field for everyone, because they're charging final value fees at the same rate to anyone who'd list their items, just depending on the category, to now it is the final value fee plus you have to pay extra pay to play to get more exposure to your listings. Now, if we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, those of you who say that eBay is throttling your sales, you should be saying eBay might be throttling your traffic. So your sales being throttled and your traffic being throttled are two different things, because eBay controls amount of traffic to your listings through the things that you do or have done on the platform. They have no control over who clicks buy it now. So if someone finds your item, if they like it, eBay has no control over that unless there's a problem with the checkout system, which we know that there has been in the past, but that's something totally different. And I think, in my case, heck, like 3 years ago, was it? I think there was a time where eBay was sort of changing the traffic reports a little bit, where, all of a sudden we had fewer impressions and we had more views. And real quick, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with traffic reports, there's 3 components of it. Now, I'll show you mine here. This is the last 30 days. We have impressions. So the impressions is what this chart is. And as you can see, it's somewhat kind of consistent. It kind of started off the mid-December through mid-January here. And it was at about, I'd say, 40,000 impressions per day, kind of dipped a little bit. And then the last week, it's been very, very, very strong. Well, my impressions are up 11.3% over the last 30 days because for me, I made some changes in my my listings where I added my markdown sales again. You see the last week, my sales have gone up as compared to the week prior to that because I had no markdown sale. My markdown sale was gone. And I had my coupon from the beginning of the year was not even implemented yet, which is a big mistake on my part. Where you see, I think like the 13th of January, I implemented that coupon back in my store, and it's added about, what is that, like 10% more impressions? And see, now impressions are opportunities. Impressions are opportunities because eBay is placing that item in front of somebody on some level, whether it's in a search or whether it's in someone else's listing. eBay is showing the buyer every time you get an impression, it's a chance for that buyer to click if it's appeared on their screen. Has to be on their screen at some point. Now, of course, if they click on your listing, they find it compelling enough to take a look. Now that's a view. And then, of course, you, through the quality of your listing, your price, the buyer will be compelled to buy your item, and that becomes a conversion. So while my impressions were up, my conversions have been down. So that could be a wild number of things. It could very well may be that just the type of items I've been buying over the last 30 days due to the lack of availability of the really good stuff that I'm able to come across has just not been there. But what I want you to do, for those of you who feel like eBay is throttling your items or your sales, that is to maybe look at it from a different standpoint. Instead of looking at the results, dig a little deeper, look at your performance in your seller hub, go under performance under traffic, and go back to a time where sales were fine and run that report, a 30-day report. Now, of course, if we're comparing apples to apples, you need to have similar size stores. So, if your store is a smaller store than it was when sales were good, well, that could be the reason why you would show more impressions when things were good. But my guess, and I'm willing to bet, that if everything is the same, if your account health is the same size store, you haven't changed your promoted listing habits much, that you will see pretty much within about a 5 to 10% margin of error, pretty much the same number of impressions. And again, I think there's a lot of variance. There's a lot of variance when it comes to, think about it. In a day, if you get 40,000 different impressions where people are, it may not be 40,000 different people, but you have 40,000 impressions. So that's a lot of people looking or searching for or seeing a similar item than yours, and your item appears on their screen somewhere. And maybe out of that 40,000, you make one sale. Another day, you might have the same number of impressions and have 10 sales. That's still a very, very small percentage of buyers, those 10 buyers, as compared to the number of impressions. So it's very, very possible for you to have a large swing from one day to the next when you have virtually the same traffic level. And of course, there is a theory, and this still could be a thing. I think sometimes, and it's fair to say, some of us, including myself, I still do this, tend to draw conclusions about what's going on, even though it's not documented. And so we might think eBay has a cap on how many sales that we can actually deal with. So maybe the cap is 10. So the spigot is open, and once you hit that cap, they shut it down, and that's all you're going to get. There's been many times where I've had like a great morning, and all of a sudden it just died until the end, until the next day. You think you're on track for a really, really great day, and it just kind of goes from great to nothing. And the theory is that eBay is throttling your sales after a certain level. And I don't know what it is. Is it because they're not throttling sales? Unless there's a glitch that's saying that they're not allowing buyers to check out. It might be that they're throttling the traffic. So instead of being up high on page 1, you might be stuck somewhere on the lower level of page 1 or maybe page 2 or 3 to give other sellers a chance. This has always been my thought. It's like, why is it that smaller sellers can still do well on eBay when you have larger stores out there that should be taking most of the market share? And it could be that, based on the number of items you have listed, based on your sales history, your account health, that they've decided that you have a certain level of items that you can sell in a day. This is a theory that a lot of people subscribe to, by the way, but there's still no evidence to back it up. And so yet we draw conclusions, and some of us think this is happening when we don't know. It could be happening. It might not be happening. And I want to know what you guys think about that. Is it happening? Does eBay sort of cap the number of impressions? After we make so many sales, do they kind of shut us down and push us down further in search? I don't know. Want to know what you guys think down below. But again, there's nothing wrong with drawing your own conclusions to that. Don't allow it to change your behaviors until you really, really know. And I think sometimes it has to be anecdotal. If every time you leave, and things change, like your traffic, and stop looking at your sales and your traffic changes, I mean, maybe there is something to it. But in my case, there's nothing to that theory. And again, I apologize to you guys I know a lot of you look at me as someone who, knows a lot about eBay, and I believe I do, but I'm no expert. I've told you guys this many, many times. I'm liable to be wrong. And in this case, I was wrong. And so hopefully you guys continue to watch the channel. I have no agenda to try to fool you guys. I don't, make videos for really the sake of making videos. A lot of times I'll make videos when I'm thinking about something. So, this weekend I'm thinking about, wow, I was gone to a location where I really don't always have the best reception, and therefore I can't really interact with offers and make offers and do things with my account that I normally do when I'm at home. And yet I made better sales this weekend than I have, the last 3. So that can't be it. Geolocation can't be it. So I want to know your thoughts on this down below. Let me know. Maybe I'm a weirdo for thinking this way, but I don't think I'm the only one that draws their own conclusions when things aren't going quite well. So with that, I want you guys to have an excellent weekend, or rest of your weekend, or actually start to your week. I guess I'm making this on a Sunday, so your weekend's over. Comment down below, hit the like button, and consider subscribing to the channel. And then we will talk to you guys here, hopefully on Mondays live if you tune in. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video. Take care.